In this video, we're going to talk about confidently dominating pitchers that throw heat. Now, there's a question that came through along the same lines is how to handle the fear of a pitcher throwing heat. Now, this is something definitely is that was a fear of mine growing up, especially when I got into high school after moving from the big field a couple years where pitching velocities slowed down, and then the pool kind of opened up of the talent, competitive talent, and in high school we saw pitchers throwing a little bit harder, and then obviously in college it was a lot more. You got the cream of the crop of high school going into Division I college, and then I'm sure for those that play pro ball it's even higher cream of the crop going up, and you're seeing more heat, so you learn how to deal with it. But I like what Greg Maddux talks about, and when he says that it's like when you're driving on the freeway for 3 hours and you're driving at 70, 80 miles an hour, and the minute you go to get off the freeway where you have to actually slow down, you have to really concentrate on braking a lot sooner than you normally would because you're used to seeing that 70 to 80 degree mile per hour as you're going. It just becomes, your eyes adjust to it and the whole thing. It's just like walking into a room and smelling something that smells really bad. Then after about 10 minutes, you're like, I don't smell that anymore. Well, your senses get kind of dulled and they get used to that smell and make adjustments or whatever you want to say. And so that speed, when you don't see it that often, it looks really fast. But when you see it more often, a 95-mile-an-hour fastball to a pro guy, yeah, it's fast. And when they break away for a couple years and they maybe retire or whatnot, yeah, 95 is fast. But when they're in it, 95 to them really doesn't look as fast as it will later when they take a break from it or when they see it for the first time. So there's a few things that we want to do, and we'll talk about the goal about swing tempo and timing and how we kind of adjust our timing. And we talk about floating versus when we start our swing. And we'll also talk about Perry Husband's idea of effective velocity. So let's start with the goal is to keep swing tempo the same. So what I mean by that, let's define swing tempo. So your swing tempo is from the moment you start your swing, or when you get your landing position and start your swing and actually go. You want your swing tempo from that movement here to actually turning to be the same. You don't want to have to cut the fat or trim the fat is what I tell my hitters. A lot of times what happens is if they start late and they're behind on the ball, you're going to see your brain is going to trim certain fat. So what usually I see getting trimmed is usually we want our hitters to land shorter. So we see this and we talk about that in this video. And the pitch plane dominator course is we want to land shorter. So we want to have basically going from a height where maybe you're a little taller here, but by the time we land we want to be on a shorter basis. And we want from this position, we want to be able to push into the ground and use ground reaction forces. Well, when you're late on a ball, then what usually happens is you'll land like this, because your brain has to trim that fat, has to trim that movement out, because it doesn't have time to be able to go here and here. So now we have a less effective swing. So we want to make sure that our goal, our objective as hitters, as coaches teaching our hitters, is to keep the swing tempo or the swing cadence the same. It's the timing that we want to adjust. So especially when we're talking about hitting pitchers that throw harder. So the answer is timing, not speeding up swing tempo. So we take a couple different things to change our timing. Now I mentioned that a float is a timing mechanism, and when our hitters don't have a float, then we have a hard time with our hitters timing the ball or timing the pitch. So we want to make sure there's two things. Either they start their swing later or earlier, or they float longer or shorter. They can pick one of the two. It's probably easier to pick one of the two, either float longer or don't float as long. Or they can start their swing earlier or later. So in the idea of a faster pitcher, ask yourself, are you going to start your swing sooner or later? So you're going to start your swing sooner, right? So you're going to get ready sooner. It's the opposite for a slower pitcher. There needs to be a change. That's why we do the varied reaction live toss drill, is we allow hitters to make that adjustment naturally during training so that they can do it out here, because you can't take the same approach of a slow pitcher. Fast pitcher gets in there, now you're using the same timing mechanism. You're floating longer, you're starting your swing later, right, to counterbalance a slow pitcher. Well, you can't take the same timing and use it for a fast pitcher. So we got to either do one or two. So we got to adjust the float timing, the float length, or the timing of when you start the swing. So either of those or both. Maybe as they get older, the hitter gets older, maybe high school, college, they can do both. But you're going to kind of go back and forth between them and get them good at both so that they can just naturally make that adjustment on their own when they see a faster pitcher. The last thing I wanted to talk about is Perry Husband's idea of effective velocity. Now he's got a couple videos in the expert section, the bonus section, that go way above my pay grade. He's put much more research and study into this than I have. But from my understanding, we want to prepare for the fastest pitch and then make adjustments, okay? So there's adjustments that we make in the swing mechanically, one being our float. We can change our float timing. We land with the bend here so that just in case we're a little out in front, I can lunge a little bit. I can lunge and push forward what Jamie Savalas in his book Positional Hitting calls the cushion or the double cushion, right? We see hitters that maybe are thinking fastball and you'll see them land. I think I got a good video of this on my blog on hitting a curveball. Hanley Ramirez or somebody, and you see him kind of bend into his front knee a little bit more when he's thinking fastball. Most definitely you can see that, and then he kind of bends and it's like a slight pause, but you see him bend in the front leg and then he snaps and goes. So we want to prepare for the fastest possible pitch, and this is something that also Frank Robinson had. My buddy Taylor Gardner shared a story with me that I think it was a brother of, or was somebody who had talked to Frank Robinson and what his plate approach was. And what he would do is he would prepare for the fastball that was up and in, because that, according to Perry Husband's effective velocity, seems faster, is perceived faster to the hitter. So if the pitcher is clocked at 93 miles an hour or 90 miles an hour, that velocity is going to look to the hitter. If it's up and in, it's going to look 93 or more. Versus if it's low and away, that perceived velocity, instead of 90 being the pitcher being clocked, it's going to look 87. So that's why a lot of times we're out in front on low pitches and outside pitches, is because the perceived reaction time is different to the hitter, or perceived velocity is different to the hitter. So Frank Robinson would get ready for the pitch up and in, and then he'd adjust to everything else. So he would use those things like, bending in the front knee to be able to cushion a little bit more, using Jamie Savalas' turn, or double cushion, and then be able to sure up and hit that pitch. Anyway, you can, another one could be barring the arm out on a slower pitch. To make an adjustment, barring the front arm out in order to slow down rotation, but you're going to increase the amount of force coming off the bat. So there's different things that we build into the swing that can help with making those adjustments. But you have to understand, or your hitters have to understand, that this idea of effective velocity, that pitches that are going to be up are going to be perceived faster. Pitches in, perceived faster. Pitches down, perceived slower. Pitches on the outside corner, perceived slower. So we want to make sure that we make our hitters mindful of that, and possibly preparing for the fastest possible pitch, what the pitcher can throw. So being prepared to hit this pitch up and in, or being prepared to hit that pitch in or up, and then just reacting or adjusting to the outside or the low stuff. So in this video we talked about how to confidently dominate pitchers that throw heat. We answered the reader question of how to handle fear of pitcher throwing heat. We talked about the goal should be about tempo and keeping the tempo the same. The answer is timing. We need to calibrate timing, not speeding up swing tempo. Swing tempo should be good. It should be the same on every single pitch. It's the timing that we need to change. We also talked about starting the swing sooner or floating less, or both, a little bit of both, to adjust either faster or slower pitcher. We also talked about, ended on this idea, or Perry Husband's idea, of effective velocity, and looking at preparing hitters for the fastest perceived velocity, either inside or up, or both, inside and up, versus outside and low being more of a slower perceived velocity to the hitter. So we'll see you in the next video.
The Hitting Performance Lab wants to know, did you know that you may be losing out on 8 miles per hour of average bat speed because of one commonly taught hitting technique? Have you ever heard the coaching terms, squish the bug, squish out the cigarette butt? Well, we created a free video revealing the results of a scientific study that will show you how we added an average of 8 miles an hour to average bat speed by doing the exact opposite of squishing the bug. Click here now to get the video while it's still free.